For 4,500 years, a single, unanswerable question has been baked into the Egyptian sand by a relentless, unforgiving sun. It is a question not of why, but of how. It is a whisper carried on the hot desert wind, a silent scream etched into 45 centuries of stone and memory. How do you build a mountain? Not a shapeless mound of earth, but a perfect, geometric mountain of cut stone, erected with a precision that can humble a modern engineer equipped with laser levels, GPS, and computer-aided design. This is the story of the Great Pyramid of Khufu, the last standing wonder of the ancient world, but make no mistake, this is not the familiar, dry tale of a pharaoh's ego and a sea of faceless slaves. This is a detective story spanning millennia, a journey into the heart of a civilization's greatest feat, a puzzle that has defied explanation until now. We will peel back the layers of myth and sand to reveal a truth far more astonishing than any fiction, a reality where the Nile itself was a highway, where a lost city of free artisans has risen from the dust, and where the very fabric of the pyramid is yielding its final secrets to the invisible eyes of modern physics. This is a story of impossible logistics, of a workforce organized not by whips but by a sacred, national purpose, of a stone mountain engineered to cheat earthquakes by swaying with them, and of hidden chambers that have waited in absolute darkness for 4.5 millennia to be discovered. We begin not with a foundation stone, but with the terrifying, bewildering scale of the challenge itself, a challenge that even today, with all our technology, would push our construction industry to its absolute limits and perhaps beyond, for the Great Pyramid is not merely a pile of rocks, it is a mathematical and astronomical instrument frozen in time, a testament to a knowledge so profound that it forces us to ask one simple, terrifying question: did the ancient Egyptians possess a technology that we, in our modern arrogance, have lost? To truly comprehend the magnitude of what was accomplished on the Giza Plateau around 2560 BC, you must first erase the image of a primitive, dusty construction site conjured by old Hollywood films. You must instead summon the vision of a project so vast, so demanding, and so meticulously planned that it makes the construction of a modern skyscraper look like a casual game of stacking children's blocks. The numbers themselves are the stuff of engineering nightmares. The Great Pyramid, the tomb of Pharaoh Khufu, was originally clad in a smooth casing of polished white Tura limestone that reflected the sun's light with such brilliance that it was visible from the mountains of Israel, a man-made star anchored to the earth. It was, and remains, a monument constructed of an estimated 2.3 million blocks of stone. The core masonry consists of coarse, yellow limestone from the Giza quarry itself, but the sheer mass is incomprehensible. The total weight is estimated at around 5.9 million tons, more than all the cathedrals, churches, and chapels built in England since the beginning of Christianity, combined. But it is not the brute mass alone that stuns the modern observer, it is the almost pathological precision. The base of the pyramid covers over 13 acres and is a near-perfect square. The four sides are aligned to the true cardinal points of the compass, north, south, east, and west, with an average error of a mere 3/60th of a single degree. This is a level of accuracy that was not consistently achieved in modern construction until the invention of the theodolite and, later, the laser. The base is level to within a tolerance of just 2.1 centimeters across its entire vast expanse. Imagine a stone platform the size of 7 football fields, level to the flatness of a billiard table, using nothing but water, wooden stakes, and human ingenuity, and you begin to approach the standard that the pyramid's anonymous master builder, Hemiunu, demanded from his workforce. The mortar used to join the stones is a substance so strong that chemical analysis has revealed its formula, yet modern science, despite countless attempts, has not been able to fully replicate it. It is finer than the stone it binds and remains unbroken in many places to this very day, a silent, invisible glue holding a mountain together. So the central mystery emerges from these facts like a ghost. How did a Bronze Age civilization, without the wheel for heavy transport in the desert, without the pulley, without iron tools, organize an industrial enterprise that would be a logistical triumph for any nation today? The answer, hidden for millennia, has been painstakingly reconstructed by teams of archaeologists, engineers, and physicists who have dedicated their lives to unraveling the pyramid's code. And the first clue they found was not in the grand temples or royal tombs, but in the humble, heartbreaking diaries of a man who was on the ground, overseeing the project, more than 4,500 years ago, a man named Mira. For decades, the prevailing image of the pyramid's construction was a biblical one, thousands upon thousands of miserable Hebrew slaves toiling under the lash of a brutal overseer. This myth, embedded in popular culture, has been completely and utterly shattered by a discovery so profound it rehumanizes the entire epoch. The pyramid was not built by slaves. It was built by a highly skilled, well-fed, and meticulously organized corps of rotating labor crews who were paid, housed, and granted free medical care in a massive, purpose-built industrial settlement that has been unearthed just a stone's throw from the pyramids themselves. This lost city, discovered and excavated over decades by the leading Egyptologist Mark Lehner, was a sprawling complex of barracks, bakeries, breweries, and workshops that at its peak housed around 20,000 people. It was a logistical machine designed for a single, sacred purpose. And from this city came the most intimate record of the construction process ever found, a set of papyrus scrolls discovered in 2013 at the ancient port of Wadi el-Jaf on the Red Sea coast, the oldest papyri ever discovered in Egypt. They are the daily logbooks of an inspector named Mira, a middle-ranking official who led a crew of about 40 elite boatmen. His words, translated for the first time by the Egyptologist Pierre Taulet and featured in a landmark PBS documentary, provide a real-time, eyewitness account of the final stages of the pyramid's construction during the 27th year of Khufu's reign. Mira's logbook reads like a shipping manifest from the dawn of time. Day after day, he meticulously records his team's mission, to travel down the Nile to the limestone quarries at Tura, on the east bank, to load their transport boats with massive blocks of the high-quality, fine white casing stone, and to navigate them back across the river and along carefully constructed canals to the pyramid site itself. Day 25, Inspector Mira spends the day with his filey hauling stones in Tura South, spends the night at Tura South. It is a prosaic, almost bureaucratic entry, but it is the most authentic voice of the pyramid builders we will ever possess. He describes how his boats, assembled from cedar imported from the cedars of Lebanon, would be loaded with up to 30 blocks, each weighing 2 to 3 tons, and how they would sail downstream, using the current, until they reached the pyramid harbor. His words are a revelation. They prove, beyond any doubt, that the mighty Nile was not a barrier but the central, pulsing artery of the construction project. The river was their concrete truck, their freight train, their highway. A sophisticated network of man-made canals, fed by a now-vanished branch of the Nile confirmed by recent geological studies, allowed Miras-loaded boats to dock practically at the foot of the pyramid complex. The final journey of a casing block from the quarry to the construction ramp could take as little as 4 days. Miras' diary single-handedly and irrevocably dismantles the slave myth. He writes of his team with professional pride, a skilled naval unit executing a critical logistical operation, not a band of broken men driven by pain. They are proud workers, and at their destination, they were welcomed into a city built to sustain their colossal effort. They ate bread baked in massive, bread mold-studded bakeries and drank beer brewed in industrial quantities, a potent, nutritious staple that was a form of liquid bread and a daily ration, a caloric engine that powered the construction of the impossible. The social organization was a pyramid in itself. Beneath the supreme authority of Pharaoh Khufu and his vizier, the master builder Hemiunu, was a network of named work gangs, the gangs of Khufu, who inscribed their names on the insides of the pyramid's relieving chambers, graffiti that reads like a proud Union tag, "The Friends of Khufu, the White Crown of Khufu is powerful." The human story of the pyramid is not one of a million forgotten bones, but one of a purpose-built city, a nation's sacred mobilization, and a man named Mira, who sailed the Nile and told the world how it was done, his words now echoing through the vast halls of time to correct a very old lie. But to accept the pyramid's human face is only to solve half the equation. To understand how an estimated 2.3 million blocks of stone, averaging 2.5 tons each, with granite beams in the king's chamber weighing up to 80 tons, were not just moved but lifted over 140 meters into the sky, we must enter the realm of theoretical physics applied to archaeology. This is the Battle of the Ramps, the most contentious and fiercely debated puzzle in all of Egyptology. For centuries, the default theory was a single, colossal, straight external ramp, a mountain of rubble and brick built against the pyramid's face that grew with the monument itself. The problem, as any engineer will tell you, is one of brutal logic. To maintain a slope gentle enough for men to haul sledges of stone, an estimated grade of about 10:1, a single straight ramp reaching the pyramid's apex would have to be over a mile long and would require a volume of material exceeding the pyramid itself. Dismantling such a ramp after the fact would be a Herculean task that left no trace. The external spiral ramp, winding around the pyramid like a corkscrew, was another popular concept, but it creates a catastrophic problem of geometry at the corners, where turning a massive, friction-laden sledge would be not just difficult but structurally dangerous, threatening to tip the load and shatter the precision-cut corner blocks. The ancient Egyptians were master problem solvers. They would have recognized a fundamentally flawed design. This is where the most compelling, elegant, and dare I say, beautiful theory enters the discussion, a theory born not from sheer fantasy but from a profound engagement with the known principles of Egyptian engineering, prominently featured by the researcher Jean-Pierre Houdin in New York Post reports and National Geographic explorations, the internal ramp. This theory proposes that the builders did not use a single, massive external ramp for the entire height, but a series of narrow, spiral ramps built inside the very core of the pyramid's masonry, ascending within its walls. The pyramid was not just a pile of blocks, it was a machine that built itself. The process begins conventionally, with a large, traditional external ramp used to efficiently move the massive majority of the stone for the lower third of the pyramid, which contains over 80% of the total volume. The internal ramp theory kicks in for the most complex, high-stakes phase of construction, the precision placement of the blocks that form the upper two-thirds and the final, perfect apex. The builders would leave a narrow, tunnel-like corridor, about 1.5 meters wide and 3 meters high, just behind the outer layer of casing stones. This spiral corridor gently snaked its way up, following the four faces of the pyramid, forever hidden from the outside world. At the corners, the corridor opens into a larger, open-air chamber or notch. This is the crucial innovation that solves the turning problem. A team of haulers would drag a loaded sledge up the internal ramp and into this corner chamber. The chamber was large enough for them to detach, reposition, and reattach their ropes for the next straight haul. The sledge never had to execute an impossible three-point turn on a steep, narrow ledge. A counterweight system, possibly using the Grand Gallery, a long, narrow, high-ceilinged corridor inside the pyramid, as a massive trolley track, could have aided in lifting the 60 to 80-ton granite monoliths that hang directly above the king's chamber. Howden's theory provides a complete, closed-loop engineering solution, and the most compelling piece of evidence may have already been captured. A 1986 microgravimetric survey of the pyramid, which measured the density of the stone, produced a curious, spiral-shaped ghost image, a pattern of lower density within the pyramid's structure. For decades, this phantom pattern was an unexplained anomaly. Under the lens of the internal ramp theory, it is no phantom at all. It is the precise signature of a hollow, rubble-filled, internal spiral corridor, hiding in plain sight for 45 centuries, a ghost waiting to be proven real. The pyramid has not given up all its secrets, but it has whispered this one to us across the ages, a testament to a genius that baked a construction elevator into the very walls of a king's tomb. While the theory of the internal ramp explains the vertical lift, the horizontal movement of the stone, the grinding, flesh-on-stone labor of dragging millions of tons across the desert floor, has been illuminated by another simple and breathtaking piece of archaeological reconstruction, endorsed in National Geographic documentaries and experimental archaeology. This is the theory of the sledge and water. A wall painting from the tomb of Jehutihotep, an Egyptian nomarch, depicts a colossal statue being dragged on a wooden sledge by 172 men in 4 rows. A worker is shown standing on the front of the sledge, and he is not waving to a crowd, he is pouring a liquid from a jar directly onto the sand in the path of the sledge runners. For years, this was interpreted as a ritual libation, a priestly blessing. Experimental physicists at the University of Amsterdam decided to test this as a practical, not a spiritual, act. They placed a heavy stone on a replica sledge and measured the force required to pull it over dry sand. The friction was enormous, causing the sand to pile up in a ridge in front of the sledge, a small sand dune that the men would have to constantly fight against. Then, they poured water on the sand, just as the tomb painting depicted. The results were stunning. The force required to pull the sledge dropped by half. But the physics is even more specific, using a precise, calculated amount of water, roughly 2 to 5% of the sand's volume, creates microscopic water bridges between the sand grains, turning loose, heaping, friction-heavy desert sand into a firm, stable, almost pavement-like surface. The sledge does not plow into a pile of sand, it glides over a momentarily hardened track. This was not brute force. This was a deep, practical understanding of material science, a pre-modern mastery of tribology. The desert was not a hopeless, shifting obstacle, it was a surface that could be engineered on the fly with nothing more than wooden sledges, rope, and a precisely measured pot of water. The sand, the very symbol of instability, became a component of the machine. Yet, even as we solve the riddles of transport and lift, a deeper mystery has guarded the heart of the Great Pyramid for all these centuries, a mystery that speaks not to how it was built, but to what still lies hidden within its solid stone core. For years, the official floor plan of Khufu's pyramid was a simple, 3-chamber diagram, the unfinished subterranean chamber cut into the bedrock, the misleadingly named Queen's Chamber, and the high-vaulted King's Chamber with its granite sarcophagus, a silent, empty box that has been devoid of a mummy since its discovery. The rest of the 5.9 million ton mass was understood to be solid limestone. That understanding, that comfortable certainty, was shattered on November 2, 2017, with the publication in the journal Nature of the findings of the Scan Pyramids Project, an international scientific mission led by the Faculty of Engineering of Cairo University and the HIP Institute in France. This team, approaching the pyramid not as archaeologists but as particle physicists, did not seek to dig or drill. They used the universe itself as an imaging device. they deployed a technology called muon radiography. Muons are subatomic particles, the heavier, unstable cousins of the electron, created when high-energy cosmic rays slam into the Earth's upper atmosphere in a constant, invisible, and harmless rain. These muons can pass through hundreds of meters of solid rock, but their path is subtly attenuated by the density of the material they traverse. A muon passing through a solid block of limestone will behave differently from one passing through an empty cavity. By placing highly sensitive muon detector plates, essentially sheets of special photographic film, inside and around the pyramid, the team could, over months of exposure, amass millions of muon tracks and effectively develop a radiographic image, an X-ray of a cosmic ray shadow. What they found was a silent scientific bombshell. High above the Grand Gallery and below the heavy, chevron-vaulted relieving chambers of the King's Chamber, they detected a large, distinct, statistically undeniable void. They named it the Scan Pyramid's Big Void, or simply the Big Void. It is a cavity at least 30 meters long, comparable in size to the Grand Gallery itself, a mysterious, cathedral-sized emptiness that has no known corridor or door leading to it. It sits there, a secret chamber sealed for eternity, its purpose and contents completely unknown. A second, smaller void was detected on the pyramid's northeast edge, but the Big Void is the discovery that has changed everything. The implications are dizzying. Is it a sealed, intact burial chamber for Khufu himself, hidden with such engineering cunning that even the grave robbers of a millennium could not find it? Is it a second Grand Gallery, a structural relief space to protect a yet-to-be-discovered lower chamber from the crushing weight of the stone above? Or is it a purely structural feature, an internal relieving arch we do not yet understand? The Egyptian authorities, under the meticulous guidance of Dr. Zahi Hawass, the longtime face of Egyptian archaeology, are proceeding with the utmost caution. This is not a moment for a destructive, Victorian-style dig and discover approach. This is a moment for 21st century, non-invasive verification. A new, more powerful set of muon telescopes, larger and with higher resolution, is being designed to scan the Big Void from all possible angles, to render its exact shape, its internal density variations, and potentially, its contents without moving a single stone. The Great Pyramid has a new chapter, and we are only on the first page. The most romantic question in all of Egyptology is now the most urgent: what, after 4,500 years, is still waiting in the dark? And yet, for all the seductive mystery of a hidden chamber, there is another, almost unnerving scientific reality about the Great Pyramid that pushes us towards a conclusion perhaps even more astonishing than a secret tomb. This reality asks not what is inside, but how the entire, monumental structure manages to be still standing, virtually unbroken, in one of the most seismically active regions on Earth. The notion that the pyramid is a heavy, static, indestructible pile of blocks is fundamentally flawed. The pyramid is not just enduring time, it is actively fighting earthquakes, and it has been doing so for 45 centuries. A recent study into the seismic resilience of the pyramid's design, reported by Reuters, reveals a hidden engineering genius that operates on a macro scale. The iconic step-like form of the pyramid, with its outer casing blocks leaning slightly inwards, is not an aesthetic choice or a mere byproduct of a simple construction method. It is a built-in damping system. When a seismic wave from a Mediterranean earthquake travels through the ground and hits the pyramid, a traditional, solid stone structure would absorb the shear force directly, causing catastrophic cracking at the base and a fatal swaying at the top. But the Great Pyramid's system of inward-leaning, interlocking blocks, stacked in a step pyramid core, acts like a giant, tuned mass damper. The seismic energy is not concentrated, it is diffracted and scattered. The individual blocks, held together not just by weight but by that UN-replicable mortar, can microsettle and rub against each other, absorbing the energy through friction. The very geometry that makes it a pyramid, a distribution of mass that lowers the center of gravity and creates a base so wide it is almost immovable, allows the structure to flow with the Earth's motion rather than rigidly resist it, to bend and settle instead of snapping. This is a principle of earthquake engineering that modern architects in cities like Tokyo and San Francisco employ with steel rollers and complex polymer bearings. The ancient Egyptians achieved the same result with nothing but stone, geometry, and an intuitive, empirical understanding of how stress travels through a monumental structure. We are forced to confront the conclusion that Hemiunu and his engineers did not just build a tomb, they built a seismic machine. It is a design so stable that it has survived the fall of empires, the cracking of the continents, and the direct hit of thousands of seismic tremors that have leveled far more modern cities. The pyramid does not defy nature. It was designed to harmonize with its most violent forces. And so we return to the relentless desert sun, baking the same question into the sand with which we began. Did the builders of this perfect mountain of stone possess a lost technology, a secret knowledge that has vanished from the face of the earth? The answer is yes and no. It is a no in the sense of mythical, Atlantean energy crystals or anti-gravity devices. The bricks are limestone, the tools were copper and wood, and the power was human sweat and ingenuity. But it is an emphatic, resounding yes in a far more profound sense. The lost technology was not a physical object, it was an entire, integrated system of thought that we, in our age of hyper-specialization and concrete pump trucks, struggle to comprehend. It was a lost synthesis. Their lost technology was an absolute mastery of the natural world, bending the Nile and its floods into a national transport grid, manipulating the chemistry of damp sand and the physics of friction. It was a lost genius for social organization, the ability to mobilize 20,000 free workers in a rotating, interlocking system of supply, craft, and logistics that functioned with the cold, silent efficiency of a Swiss watch, fueled by bread and beer and a shared, fervent belief in the divinity of their king and his ascension to the heavens. It was a lost architectural intuition, an ability to conceive a building not as a static shell but as a dynamic organism, a half-kilometer-high stone cathedral that could feel an earthquake coming and breathe with it. The real lost technology was a state-level cognitive capacity to hold the micro and the macro in perfect balance, to simultaneously manage an inspector's logbook of a 4-day boat trip and the cosmic alignment of a 6-million-ton star mirror. The mystery of the pyramid is not an unsolvable equation, it is the permanent, humbling awe we feel when we realize it was solved by human hands just like ours, directed by minds that had mastered a different, and in many ways, superior form of engineering intelligence. The big void waits silently in the dark, the internal ramp is a ghostly spiral frozen in stone, and Mir's diary is a voice still speaking across the water. The pyramid is not a dead monument. It is a silent, ongoing conversation between our century and the 45th that came before it. And it has not yet said its last word.